Can I get a motion, please, that the agenda for the June 29th, 2023 Emergency Management Advisory Committee meeting be adopted as presented? Councillor Chenard. All those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the May 16th, 2023 Emergency Management Advisory Committee meeting be adopted as presented? Councillor Taylor.
I so move.
Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the June 8th, 2023 Emergency Management Advisory Committee meeting be adopted as presented? Councillor Beyer.
I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Beyer. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. And can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the June 9th, 2023 Emergency Management Advisory Committee meeting be adopted as presented? Councillor Bevan.
I'll make it so.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. We will now move on to emergency response updates. Go ahead, Mr. Bob Beck, our Director of Emergency Management.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be presenting a bit of an update on Fire 31 emergency, and then Mr. Kitless will be doing our latest emergency, which is the flooding emergency, and hopefully that's the last for a while. So, sorry. And bear with me. I am learning. Let's see if I can, just like this, child.
You got her. Nailed her.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Ms. Mayor Zahara. So this is a bit of just an overview of what happened during the last evacuation. You all know this, but I think it's important that we put it down as a timeline for the committee and for the public to see. We had just gotten out of the last evacuation and emergency, and we were still monitoring fire, and we received an update on June 8th. And it was quite a rushed meeting as well, and they wanted us to understand that one of their projections said fire arriving in Edson in 2 days. And so we immediately met with the county again that day at 2 p.m. And talked about coming together again in a unified command and what could happen if the fire was coming in the way that they outlined to us. We organized the EMAC meeting. That was the difference between this incident and the previous one. The previous one happened so fast, we didn't even have time to give council, the EMAC, an update on what we had heard. This time, we at least had time to bring EMAC together and tell you this is what we're hearing. And it could be really serious. So in that respect, we had 12 to 24 more hours than we did the previous time in May, on May 4th, 5th. So that was good. On June 9th, a state of local emergency was declared at 12:16 p.m. And we did agree with the county that day that we would do unified command operations again in the ECC at the county HQ, and it worked flawlessly again. That same day, we contacted City of Edmonton, and we started arranging reception center, and our ESS team, that's Emergency Social Services, did a fantastic job organizing that. And we issued an evac alert later that day, and then finally the evacuation order was issued. And immediately buses were organized. Later that day, and those that were still here will remember this, fire was spotted south of McLeod River at about 10. That was our first report. And it was still, what we had heard was it was a kilometer south of the McLeod. But that it was spotting, so embers were carrying 500 meters, is what we were told. 10:03, 3 minutes later, we heard embers were falling in Wilmore Park. And so Councillor Positioning will recognize both photos, I would imagine. One is, I believe, from one of the firemen on top of the fire hall. that's looking south, right about then, maybe a little later. And the other one is a picture that Al Schramm took of a twig, a burnt twig that had landed in Glenwood. So that was later, but it shows that how far the embers and branches were carrying. So we were told that Wilmore Park was on fire at 10:34, and siren was activated in town at 11:39. So these are some of the pictures that of the aftermath of Wilmore, and these are not really any of the worst pictures. The one on right here is the caretaker shed in the caretaker's compound. That was actually later, but I thought I'd include the picture because it shows the damages. That one happened after the main fire, but the rest is where the fire rolled through the overflow and across right up the river. So on June 10th, the last evacuation bus leaves town about 2 p.m. For the next 5.5 days, CAO Beveridge and Mayor Zahara, along with CAO Mercier and Mayor Williams of the county, provided updates to the residents. On that June 10th, also Chief Milton requested equipment and personnel from around the province, and those of us that were lucky to have seen them saw the wonderful firefighters that came and helped us out. Councillor Positioning was lucky enough to spend a lot of time with them. Some great departments. They certainly represented themselves well, helping us out. On June 10th, we got an update, and I thought we'd include this so you could see what we were hearing. Basically, so this is verbatim what we got. The fire was classified as out of control, estimated at 204,284 hectares in size. The day before, the wildfire grew approximately 73,000 hectares. So it was it grew just like it did in the early May incident as well. The portion that crossed the river by Wilmore and came straight towards us was not that large. There was a far greater fire growth, what they called the Fickle Lake finger, crossed Highway 47. Of course, you all know that, and it raced, and it just grew so fast. It was really, really dangerous. So June 10th to 13th, firefighting operations ongoing from province, county, and town crews. ECC working on reentry plans. We started researching and communicating support payments available to evacuees. There was a lot of misinformation that we had to straighten out in the province, and Red Cross helped us get the right facts out. So on June 11th, we got a recommendation from our incident commander, Scott Rennick, who is from BC Forest Service. I just got to say the BC Forest firefighters were phenomenal. We're lucky they were here to help us through this thing. And basically he said, based on the behavior he was still seeing, you guys can't really think about bringing anyone back in your community, and he recommended we keep the highway closed for 48 more hours. They were worried that the Fickle Lake finger would go right across Highway 16. So he highly recommended that we do not make any changes. And he was on the fire scene every day. We took his advice. So we've got a few pictures of the reception center in the Edmonton Expo Center. The City of Edmonton were first class, Red Cross and all the volunteers, and some of our staff that were able to make it there and do some work, and even some of the visits from some on council. We had heard from residents that really appreciated that. We could not have done it. City of Edmonton was just fantastic. So a bit of a timeline on what happened after that. June 13th, we started to get a little bit of rain. June 14th, we got a bit more, 22 mils. So at that point, we in the county started, let's have reentry discussions based on that rain. And we started talking with all the agencies that need time to get services ready if you're going to re-enter. Then on the 15th, we announced the re-entry. And at that point, we ended the unified command and joint ECC with the county, but our work continued. And on June 16th, the SOL lapsed for the fire threat. But people kept coming into town post that. And then the 17th, 18th, and 19th, we turned into a flood. So it went straight from a fire into a flood. We thought it went really good because it helped us with the fire. But it really, it turned into another problem that Mr. Kitlitz is going to tell you about in a couple minutes. Current status, Chief Milton is here with me, and he talks to forestry every day about the status of the Wilmore, the finger that we call it, and he can describe the situation. But forestry feels we're in good shape today, and they're still working on locating hotspots, but there's not many. But there's a pile of cleanup for us to do at Wilmore, for example, before we could let anyone back in there. I'm going to skip the flood mitigation one. I think that Mr. Kitlitz will address that. We did include a slide that talked about who we'd like to thank. So any success we've achieved is due to hard work and commitment of the following. The residents and businesses of Edson. I don't know how you could have asked for better residents to be evacuated twice, do it with almost no problems, and then re-enter with almost no problems. This is unheard of. They were just fantastic. Supportive town council, been there for us all through this. The fire department was fantastic, and the departments that came and joined the fire department, just phenomenal. RCMP, we basically lived with the RCMP this whole event. Yellowhead County Council and staff. I know that CO Beverage talks to our colleagues around the province, and they can't believe two communities have partnered like this so fast with no ground rules, and it's worked out the way it's worked out. We had great success from our partner agencies. Forestry's been great. We had various incident management teams that are brought in to help us. We learned so much from them. AHS, ATCO, Fortis, Altalink, CN, AEMA. There's more, but we want to give a shout out. All of those groups joined our emergency command center, and it was just excellent having them at the table as we were rolling out these plans. Evergreens Foundation, Parkland Lodge, busing companies and their drivers. We couldn't have done it without them. And City of Edmonton, the Red Cross, and our volunteers. So that's really it for the fire update, but I know that, Mr. Mayor, the fire is so last month or last week that...
That's like 2 emergencies ago. All right, well, we'll open the floor to questions for Mr. Beck or our chief. Chief Milton, if you want, feel free to come on up too. Provide your perspective. Council, you have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor and Mr. Beck and Chief Milton, thank you for your work on all this and your leadership. This has been a hectic 6 weeks. Is that the way? I don't do it. Like it's been crazy. And I said this after the first evacuation about ensuring that our staff takes time to recoup after all this. And of course, CO Beverage, I know you be in charge of that. So hopefully they get time to sort of reset and get ready to work again, because this was big. This was a huge thing. This was a massive undertaking. This especially the week that was. So the question I had was regards to Wilmore Park. And of course, we have one of the user groups, the Rotary Club manages the park. And of course, I'm fully supportive of the decision to keep it closed. It's safety first. And so long as it's not safe, it remains closed. And that's it. Just wondering about conversations that you will be able to have sort of down the road They're a fantastic user group. They use this as a sort of a fundraising opportunity, and they give back to the community tremendously. I would hate to see the group sort of be out of this. I know they have insurance there, or there might be insurance involved. They had to hire a caretaker. That caretaker has had to leave. Just wondering about any comments you might have in conversations and future conversations you might have with them.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, be happy to talk about that. Yeah, we unfortunately we haven't laid out a whole bunch more with Rotary right now. It is still an unsafe site, and we have to. We did explain that to them. We're lucky that we've got a forestry crew that is doing a whole lot of work there for us to mitigate the hazards, and we're going to. While they're offering it, we're taking it because it's not costing us. They're doing all the work. And so in order to have them down there working, we have to keep the whole place closed. And there are still hazards, but they're going beyond where the boundary of maybe where they should, and they're looking at our other trails to make sure there's not other hazards. So they're kind of committing to do a real good job for us. And we've also even brought in West Fraser to look at whatever is salvageable in there while it's closed. Might as well just do it. The overflow is really heavily damaged, and the outhouses and some of the services are gone. The sites themselves will be fine. And the main campground is just untouched. It's as is the bike park. We've got some damage that we have to secure around the caretakers, not residence, but compound. And we still need some insurance inspections on that. So yeah, we'll be in touch with Rotary as soon as it's safe for everyone to get back to some form of normal down there. It would be great to do so. And we'll try to work something out, and we'll see what the province can help us out with in terms of damages.
Thank you, Mr. Beck and Councillor Taylor. Councillor Chenard.
Actually, just a comment. I like through all this how we're thanking the public for their cooperation, because like when we had the first one, you know, people like, oh my God, and we did it too, and it's just amazing how our public is holding up. You know, just a comment, because 90% of the population is very cooperative and very understanding. So, just a comment on that.
Thank you, Council. Any other questions? Councillor Beyer.
Thanks. Through the chair to Mr. Beck. Thank you for all your hard work on this. This is definitely quite the undertaking after becoming the director, our emergency management director. My question is regarding AHS. Is everything back up with them 100%, and are all the residents returned, or what does that situation look like?
Mr. Mayor, I did not get that update from them. I think it was supposed to be tomorrow is my next update, but when I last did attend a group meeting with them, everything was on schedule. We were very impressed with how fast AHS was actually coming back on stream. So after it seemed like the previous evacuation, maybe services didn't get up to speed as quickly as we liked after. This time, we got lots of cooperation from AHS. We were very happy. I don't have the status of all the services. They did warn me that each service is staggered because some of them take extra processes. And so they laid it all out. They had a plan, and I wish I'd brought that plan with me, but I don't have it tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beyer. Any other further questions or comments on this matter? Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Beck. And I know Staff Sergeant Delisle's not here this evening, but wonder if there were any policing issues in town during the week of the evacuation. Do we have any tremendous issues that needed to be dealt with, or was things relatively quiet during the evacuation?
Sure. I'm just going to pass on, Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to pass on, it's kind of hearsay that either Luke or Staff Sergeant Delisle passed on to me, that they felt it was relatively quiet in town and relatively free of incidents. There were some reports of people upset because they saw firemen on their, some of their firemen on people's decks, and which they were fire monitoring their homes, putting things away from the deck so they wouldn't catch fire. Other than that, they said the town was, I'm just passing on what I heard, they said the town was great. There were a few residents that stayed behind, and as I was told, they kind of watched the streets for everyone, which we encourage everyone to always evacuate. But the fact that a handful stayed behind and they were the eyes on the street probably didn't hurt, so.
Go ahead, CEO Beveridge.
I can just provide that update as well. I did speak to Staff Sergeant Lyle last week with regards to how things actually went, and just understanding the reports that were provided. And essentially, it was a very quiet week in the community at that time. Obviously, having more presence with our CMP officers supporting us, as well as our firefighting crew that was also, and there was a lot of individuals along with ATCO as well. So it was a different than the first evacuation, because there was a lot more people, boots on the ground, if you will. So that was a positive to see that there wasn't as many potential, well, as the issues that we saw in the evacuation number 1.
And just to supplement, we also had, outside the RCMP, we had sheriffs here, we had fish and wildlife officers, peace officers, CN police. So it was very well protected and great support from partnering agencies. Anybody else have any further questions? Councillor Pasichny?
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Beck. The only question I have, and I guess, is on the I know from my employment, our evacuation was smoother. I know the hospital had the first notice in the community, and we had early notice, which was nice, to be able to move a lot of vulnerable residents. But if I put on my third or fourth hat, or whatever you want to call it, this time we didn't notify our fire department, and I was just kind of curious on why they weren't notified to get their families going, because we never found out till really late. And I do know there's a few members in our department, because I sit on the department, that were a little peeved at the end of it all, that they didn't find out until the alarms went off, and they had to worry, instead of coming to the fire hall where we kind of needed them, they were making sure they were getting their families out. And I'm just curious what the merit idea behind that. Once he told the hospital, I found out from my wife before I found out from Daniel at my work. Because once you tell the hospital, the whole community knows. But at the end of the day, I was just kind of curious why the fire department wasn't notified early.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have an explanation for that, but that's a good thing to bring up. We've got a few lessons that we've learned, that not everything went perfect, and so we will have a debrief and after action report done. There were a couple of other notifications that I was made aware of after the fact that we could have done better. So these are lessons learned. Other than that, I don't have an explanation for that. But we know there was room for improvement.
All right. Any other questions? Well, thank you and your teams for your tremendous work. It was something to see and watch unfold. Pretty amazing to see the support from across the province arrive here. So we appreciate everybody that has been fighting this fire, from the firefighters to the equipment operators to all the support staff. It's been truly remarkable. So thank you. And I think now we're going to move over to Mr. Kittlitz. We asked for water. We sure got it.
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't want to borrow your jacket. Thank you, Mr. Dem. Okay. All right. Okay. Quick presentation, Mr. Chair and committee members, just with respect to the events of the flood that occurred shortly after we were allowed to come back to our community after the fire evacuation. So just some highlights. Between June 13th and 19th, reported we had about 133 millimeters of rainfall in the Edson area. Most of that occurred, I don't have specific times, between the evening or afternoon of June 17th to June 19th, where we saw probably around 121 millimeters of rainfall in that time. It was more of a slow rain event that happened for a long time, but that's still quite a bit of precipitation in a short period. As was visible to most, both Bench Creek and Wasp Creek that run through town flooded their banks in that time. Also, due to the heavy inflow of infiltration into our sanitary system, capacity was reached and started to surcharge. Manholes were surcharging onto roads, which do make their way to creeks eventually, and also into private properties. And this all kind of started coming to the head in the early morning of June 19th. We were prepared, staff for prepared as they could be. We had pumps prepared and we were ready to deploy as needed. As mentioned in the previous presentation, well, I guess no, this is a little bit different. The dam stood up our ECC on the morning of the 19th. We had our first meeting at 2 to help coordinate the mitigation of the flooding and the safety messaging. And then as also again at 12 p.m., the state of local emergency was declared for the town of Edson in response to this flooding. So a little more specifics, kind of started on June 18th. On Sunday, we had staff come in to start installing some pumps. This is a picture down Edson Drive looking, I guess, east, sorry. We did install a pump in a private manhole in the condo development at the end of Edson Drive. They flooded last June, so we got ahead of that and tried to mitigate that the best we could. Also got the rest of the pumps deployed that day. We also had some road staff in assisting a beaver dam specialist that we had employed probably a week before because we already knew there were some problems for downstream on Bench Creek with some beaver damming. So they were out trying to clear as much of the beaver dam that they could that day as well. And then at 6:45, I got a text from our utilities manager, and at that point in time, there was no alarms going off on our sanitary manholes that have smart systems on. The water levels were fine at that point in time. That all changed in the wee hours of the morning on Monday. I think the first alarm started going off maybe at 4 a.m. I think, but by 7:32 a.m. All alarms were going off and the sanitary system was at its capacity and surcharging to the surface. We had calls about the high water level in Hillendale subdivisions, so we opened up the release valve there to start to drain some of that water. 7:50 a.m. we deployed a trash pump, the 6-inch trash pump on Edson Drive to start trying to bypass some of the capacity or the water flow in the sanitary system another direction to alleviate some of that. What else? We also had to bypass. So because of the capacity for the sanitary was at capacity, the treatment plant could not treat that much water. So we were prepared for that, and we diverted the water into our holding ponds that are in behind. And thankfully, those holding ponds had enough storage to deal with this event. We did not discharge any untreated water into the McLeod River during this event, which is a very positive for us. And then because of the discharging to the street, there certainly was some of that water that ended up in the creeks at very, very low levels. With the amount of water that was diluting the sanitary at this point in time, the concentration is quite low. And of course, that was reported to AEP, so that has been submitted, and we'll get our report back from AEP on that in due course. By around noon on Monday, just to note, these times are somewhat approximate, just based off communications and texts, are not exactly to the minute, but at approximately around noon, road staff began pumping out the north side of 6th Ave, which was filling fast. The picture in the middle was right around when they started. They had 2 pumps going, a 6-inch and a 4-inch at that time. The water level was probably about a foot below the road. By 6 p.m. that night, it had breached the road. At that point, we had three 3-inch pumps going and the 6-inch pump going, and for most of that afternoon, and at around 6 p.m. it went over top of the road. We also observed a catch basin on 2nd Avenue at 46th Street that started to wash away, so we had to get that out barricaded. Later on that afternoon, water began flooding over Second Ave at 48th Street. The Wass Creek ditch that runs along the east side of 48th Street was getting quite full. It breached and crossed Second Ave around 247 on that afternoon. We also got the flooding at the end of that line on First Ave and 48th Street. There's probably about, well, I think that one report there was over a foot of water sitting in that intersection that afternoon. 4 p.m., the government of Alberta sent out an advisory alert to the town of Edson with respect to a high water level. Later that evening, we had a third party deliver a 14, this here is a 14-inch pump to Bench Creek. This picture here in the middle one in the background is the RCMP station. The water was, there's a berm in between this pond at the RCMP station and the railway tracks. The water was going over top of that berm. And actually, it was our beaver dam specialist suggested, you got probably about 4 or 4 feet of water capacity on this side, so start pumping that. So we procured this pump and started pumping that pond down the best we could at 6 o'clock. This pump and the pumps around 6th Ave, we had crews stay on overnight. We ran those pumps all night long. So it was basically, those pumps were running for, I don't even know, probably almost 2 days straight. Tuesday morning, obviously there's lots of communications going out to staff and residents with respect to safety and who to call if there was flooding reported. We did start getting calls from residential private properties with respect to flooding. Everyone that did call, we recorded. We have a form that we filled out, and we mapped all these locations. There'll be other views of the map, so just bear with me. As of this morning, we've had 76 reported of flooding due to this rain event of some fashion. Some of them overland, some of them through sewer backup. We're still refining that data. We can share that 14 of those 76 also experienced flooding during last year's June event. We had arranged for support from GFL to supply garbage bins upon request to the residents or these properties that did experience flooding, so that we could help out with getting their waste out of their homes as quickly as possible. My understanding is there was another fairly substantial event in 2019, and sadly we don't have the data on that, which would have been very helpful for our efforts to try to fix these problems to see where these were at that point in time, but we don't have data on that, unfortunately. So June 21st, Wednesday, by this time we were starting to see the water levels recede, and by Wednesday the water was back within the banks of the Bench and Wass Creeks. We started to remove the pumps that were deployed, and then staff started to go out and basically inspect all of our culverts, ditches, bridges, catch basins, or remove any debris damage, assess damage and remove debris from those areas so the water could continue to flow. As you can imagine, there was a lot of debris built up in a lot of the catch basins and ditches. We contacted ISL Engineering. They were on site Wednesday to start doing assessment on 6th Avenue, which is quite visibly, there's a lot of erosion on the south side of the avenue. So they were assessing that, as well as all along Wass Creek, and went and took a look at Bench Creek to start assessing the damage to the infrastructure there. We continued, obviously, our messaging with our residents, and then the ECC was still active in meeting daily to help coordinate both flood mitigation and recovery. So as mentioned, and as of right now, the road 6th Avenue between 47th and 48th Streets is closed, and will be closed for quite some time. There was actually, we have video of water bubbling up through the cracks on the avenue. As the water was going across the avenue into the south side, there was still water bubbling up through the road. So that suggests that there is a lot of water underneath that surface, and until the engineers are able to open it up and really assess that damage, it's unsafe for vehicular traffic. We have allowed for pedestrian traffic on the north side of the avenue, but it will remain closed until they can get in there and repair. The sinkhole at the catch basin on 2nd and 46th Street, we're arranged for a contractor to come in next week to repair that. The other thing that we've decided to do, given the amount of folks that have experienced flooding in their private properties, and the data that we need to understand really how to fix the problems that are happening in our community with water, we've retained professional plumbers to go in to each residence and inspect their service line with a camera inspection that we'll get the data for, and also just to inspect their plumbing systems. You're going to see on the next slide some of the homes that have installed backflow preventers still flooded, and so the question comes to mind is, what's wrong? So why did this not work? What's wrong with their plumbing? How it's configured? Maybe there's something we can learn. And so we're calling back all the residents that have registered, and we're inviting them the opportunity to have a plumber to come in and inspect. And that's data that we'll be able to collect. We've created a form for the plumber. They have to inspect and ask these certain questions, so that we're going to collect data that hopefully will help us understand maybe more on how we're going to fix this. But and just to be clear, the intention is that the town's not going to go in and fix their plumbing. We're just going to give them an assessment to say, hey, here's some things you might want to do that might mitigate the problems in your home or your property. Here's what we're going to do on our side of the fence. So that's ongoing right now. This is the map that we collected data right from the start of the event that shows the 76 properties that have flooded so far. I am told that we received another submission late this afternoon, so we're up to 76 officially. Sorry, 77. You'll notice in the map we've detailed out 3 specific areas of town. You can see that there's a higher concentration of flooding in these particular areas, and the orange signifies the flood. They have flooded in June of 2022 as well, so they're repeat. These are some of the 14 that repeated. And the little purple X's show where backflow preventers were. So you can see in a couple instances, backflow preventers were installed, and yet they flooded both times. So we need to try to understand what's going on.
Just if I can ask you a question,
Sure.
Mr. Kitlitz. These backflow preventers, are they the ones that we've installed through our program, or are these maybe been installed previous?
These I think there's 5 of them on there, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. They were installed. I think that we've had 5 people take us up on our 5 approved and installed so far. I think there's more applications in the queue, but 5 have been installed as a result of this program that we started this year. I don't know for sure. I think these are the ones that we've done this year as part of the program. Pretty sure that that's what they are, because we don't have data on every other person who's installed one prior to this program being in place. So these are the ones that we've registered and installed, have been installed this year.
And just to follow up, we don't know the extent of the damage, if it was minor or major.
We do not.
Yeah, so there could be a difference there compared to the previous photo.
It could be, yeah, and that's part of the other reason too for the plumbing inspections as well, to understand some of those and get some of those questions answered. Data is important, right? If we're gonna solve this problem, data's gonna help us do that. So that's our intention, and we're offering the option for that to happen. So
Go ahead, Councillor Sharp.
Just a just a question, like we're talking the backflow preventer valves. Is that part of a standard when you're building a house? So is it something to suit insurance standards, your house must have one? Or am I incorrect on that?
through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not aware that there's any regulation or building code requirement to have them installed. I think it's a volunteer option of the builder, the homeowner to do that. So not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz. I'm not surprised by detail A or detail C, because the entire neighborhood above it has their weeping tiles tied into their sewers. I'm surprised by Hillendale having 2 homes that flooded, because that area is, because West Grove doesn't have it, because West Grove doesn't have the weeping tile tied in, and neither does Hillendale. So I'm just surprised that we would have, I guess in the areas that don't have the stormwater surge, why they would have the backup flows at that time.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. I think that's as you can see, there's some repeat areas, but there's a lot of new areas that happen during this event. So it's curious to find out. And hopefully, we get to collect more data to find out specifically. Just initially, when we talked to folks to register, we weren't asking whether they believed it was an overland issue or a sewer backups. And so when we're calling them back to offer the plumbing inspection, we're trying to ask some more of those details to get as much data as possible. So, yeah. Okay. So just quickly, so what are some of the things that we are doing or the town is doing or has in place to start trying to figure out and fix the problems that we're having here? As mentioned by Councillor Pasichny, we do have a lot of inflow and infiltration due to weeping tile and storm systems tied into the sanitary. Sanitary systems were never designed to handle that much extra capacity. So one thing, sanitary sewer condition assessment. This is a project that we had in 2022. It's still just finishing off. I'm told from McElhaney we're expecting the final report any day now. This condition assessment was to establish a monitoring program to both delineate problem neighborhoods and perform model calibration. A sanitary model is a model that'll let us run scenarios and determine where there's system malfunctions or problems that we need to upgrade. It's to establish an inspection or maintenance program. A diligent program on how to keep our sanitary system maintained is important. And then finally, it's going to establish and prioritize a capital plan for us with cost estimates so that the council has the opportunity to see this data, see this information, and prioritize it against other projects in the community. As mentioned, we're doing the flooded property assessments. Every one of these sewers will be cambered. Again, this is optional. I think we're offering the opportunity to these residents. It's conceivable that some of these property owners might not want us to do that. So whoever takes us up on the offer, we're going to collect that data, and we're going to figure out what the configurations are. The reason this is important is because, for example, if there is plumbing, if the weeping tile is plumbed into the sanitary line, depending on where that is, the backflow preventer won't help. So for example, if you install your backflow preventer inside the house, but your weeping tile is tied into the sanitary on the outside of the foundation, well, guess what happens? That water is going to stop at your house, but it's going to build up on the outside of the foundation until it finds a way to get in. So that's why this is important, we believe, is to try to help figure out how some of this plumbing is configured, because maybe there's some recommendations we give to the property owners to say, hey, you might want to look at doing some changes there. The other thing is we're going to continue our flushing our mains. Obviously, with the amount of water and inflow that we had into the system, there's going to be a lot of sediment and buildup, especially at the lower end of the system. So crews are already out there starting to do some flushing and clearing of those mains now. As council is aware, we have 2 design projects that are occurring right now. These are both sanitary improvements and upgrades on 10th Ave and 54th Street. Those will be shovel-ready projects that council consider for budget for 2024 for construction. I mentioned we're doing damage assessment reports and recommendations and cost estimates for 6th Ave and the Wasp Creek culverts and any other erosion that we found. One of the things is when ISL was here on the Wednesday, there's still quite high water levels. They're going to come back out here in another week or so and take another look when now that everything's receded to normal, just to make sure that all the bridges and culverts are still intact. But we'll continue to do that. I already have some preliminary information on 6th Ave, so we'll have some more concrete information soon on that. As I mentioned, we're waiting for that final report on the sanitary condition assessment. But based on the concentration of flooding we have in repeats, obviously the 13th Ave and 54th Street and 53rd Street area are areas we're going to be looking at. Edson Drive, and then also the sanitary that runs sort of, I guess, adjacent to 48th Street through the green space there. These are all pieces of the infrastructure and we're taking a really close look at with this sanitary report that we're getting. And then obviously the backflow preventer program, perhaps we need to promote that a bit more. Maybe that's something that council will consider extending into the future. But these are some things we're working on to hopefully try to find some solutions and mitigate these flooding issues we're having in our community. With that, I'll gladly do my best to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you, Mr. Kitlitz, and all the town staff that were responding to this. It was a long few days. Council, do we have any questions, comments, or concerns? Go ahead, Councillor Bevan.
Through the chair to Mr. Kidlitz, on Sixth Avenue, you said that there was flooding there, was coming up through the street and that. I know previous years, I can't remember, was we redone that, put bigger culverts in there. Is that an option we're gonna look at again, to resize that again so that we don't back up into Dorothy's property and everybody else is back there? But I understand if we do, then downstream, it's gonna flood somebody else downstream right to Second Avenue for Second Avenue.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So it's my understanding, so with respect to the upgrades on 6th Ave that were done, I'm not sure what year it was, but my understanding is at that time that was a sanitary sewer upgrade, and at the time, the decision was not to go in and do the culverts at the same time. Would have been a pretty good opportunity to do that, I think. Right now, the two culverts that are in there are 1,000 millimeters, so that's about a 40-inch, I think, somewhere in that range. Not sure both of them were functioning as well as they should have been. I think one was working really well, one wasn't draining as fast or was plugged. So far, information I got back from ISL is they're recommending, we've given them our previous stormwater management study. They've done the analysis and they're recommending that they be upgraded to 1,200 millimeters, so that's about a 4-foot culverts. So that's a recommendation that they're putting forward, and we'll be coming back to council at some point here to talk about that once we get the final design and the cost estimates to do that, but which will be shortly. It won't take long. But yeah, I think our recommendation will be, if we're gonna rip it up and fix it, let's fix it and put in a bigger size. With respect to the downstream, we're certainly aware of that, but as council knows, we do also have this Wass Creek project that's been delayed. We have retained ISL, and that's why I asked them to come out to do this work, because they're already retained to do a bit of a option analysis for us on the bottom end of Wass Creek and the outfall. So it was actually a really good opportunity for them to come and see what was going on, because it'll help them come up with some solutions. So those are all being thought of, and we're contemplating those, and we're working on those right now.
Thank you, Mr. Kitlitz. Councillor Chenard.
Through the chair to Mr. Kitlitz, thank you for all your work. You probably don't have an exact answer, but do we have an estimated time once the plumbers go in and inspect the sewer when we think we could have a report back for them? 3 months, 6 months?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't know right now. I think right now they're estimating it'll take them about an hour to 2 for each residence. And then, yeah, then the reporting after. And then, of course, we're going to have to give it to some engineers to do some analysis on as well. I don't know for sure. I can't really say right now.
Thank you, Councillor Byer.
Thanks. Through the chair to Mr. Kitlitz. Thanks for all your work on this. It's quite a lot to take in. My question is regarding the beaver dam downstream of Bench Creek. So I've noticed our pier there, or the where by just south of Centennial Park, right next to the RCMP building that we installed before your time. We can see it now, so we couldn't see it before the rain started. Is that because of the beaver dams?
Yeah, I think so. Mr. Chair, yeah. So we've been, like I mentioned earlier on, we retained the beaver dam specialists here even before the floods happened, because we noticed that the levels were getting high. So that was already actioned. So yeah, they're back again now that the water levels have subsided, and they're clearing out the rest of the dams downstream. So yeah, I think that's probably what it was.
And just a follow-up question. So is that something that we're going to have to be mitigating ongoing on a whatever regular basis you need to address beaver dams and the water buildup that they're creating?
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be something we're going to have to continually maintain, yeah.
Let's go to Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz and the administration. Again, thank you. As other council members have said, thank you for your work. I know you did some great proactive work on the Sunday, as you mentioned, and then we're quickly reactive on the Monday morning. Obviously we have damage, but things could have been a lot worse. So thank you for that. When we look at the 76 properties in town, I'm looking at the map. they're all residential or any commercial?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think they all are residential. I haven't looked at the data specific enough to really look at that, but I think it's probably the majority are residential, just based on where they're at, but I don't have the specific data for that.
And just a follow-up, and maybe this is to the, entire SLT. Obviously, the big question is gonna come about like cost and things like that, right? And of course, we, in both emergencies, or I guess all three, we declared states of emergencies. What kind of conversations have you had, or sort of initial conversations had with the province in terms of, some help and some funding help with that? And looks like CO Beverage is itching to answer, so I'll let her answer.
Go ahead, CO Beverage.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This was an area that I wanted to speak about at the end. If there's other questions, I do have a little bit of a report with regards to what recovery looks like for us. If anyone has further questions, I'd be happy to wait.
Council, do you have any further questions before we get into that? Go ahead, Councillor Byer.
Thanks. Through the chair to, this could be to either one of our gentlemen here. So for years we've been fire smarting the community. We did the initial thing and all the trees were brushed away and the trails were really clear and I know that that's kind of an ongoing thing. So do we need to do any more of that? Has there been an evaluation on that? And then I would ask the same question about flooding. Is there other stuff to do preventative on that we haven't talked about before?
I'll speak to the flooding. Absolutely, and I think I know we are. Road staff are continually out inspecting catch basins and clearing catch basins. The flushing programs are important for keeping mains clear of debris and sediment buildup. But I will say that we don't have really formalized programs yet, and we're starting to build those. But they are important. Maintenance, as you can appreciate with anything, maintenance helps your infrastructure last longer. So we are working on them. We do it, but certainly we're working on improving our programs and building those budgets and programs for them. So.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll address the fire smarting question. A lot of work has been done in the past. There's currently a grant application available. It's almost an annual grant. It's called the FRIA grant, FRIAA. And we will be making application for that to do more fire smarting. There's kind of two different things that we can always do more fire smarting within the community, within the town. But there's a bigger thing that we need to work on out in the urban fringe is, are there things we can do outside the town's boundaries to work with others to see if we could anticipate where fires might come at us in the future and do something more substantial. So there's kind of two-pronged approach, and so there's been good discussions with forestry on both of them. The fire smarting within the town will qualify for that, and that'll be pretty, I won't say it's simple, but we should get it. The one outside in the fringe is more complicated, but forestry is behind us and the county is behind us too. So we'll probably be looking at both of those.
And I think too, the Premier has commented that we need to start looking at doing better jobs around urban communities to protect them, because this was pretty insane. Any other questions for our team? If not, I will hand things over to CO Beverage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing on the fire smarting, I was actually listening to the news a couple days ago, and Town of Banff actually has a pretty unique program that they've just unveiled for 2023. And I wasn't aware of it, but essentially they've got 100 kits of roof sprinkler kits that they've allowed for their residents. A fairly, for $65, they can get a roof sprinkler kit to help protect their community because of the issues that they've had with fire. So obviously, every community is looking at, any community in a forest area is looking at how they can protect, and fire smarting definitely is one of the aspects that having residents is same thing with emergency preparedness, having residents prepared as well and understand what you can do. And it's about our community, our organization being able to provide that sort of information and support. So It's just kind of a unique program that I thought was kind of interesting. First of all, I think it's really important. So I've here around the table as far as thank you for the entire team, and we, the two individuals here, Clayton and Bob, we, without their leadership, even guiding the ECC, it would have been a different story. It was incredible to watch these two gentlemen, and not discounting anyone else. There's many individuals in our organization, section chiefs and all, there's everyone in this room absolutely did a fantastic job. It was just incredible to watch the processes that they went through and the decision making that they kept their head about them. So, I spoke about this when we debriefed last time, so we're on number 3 now. Yeah, it's over. I keep saying this, but I can't underestimate how proud I am of the team we have that have worked through emergency 1, 2, and 3. And everyone is watching our community. I was just at a conference, and I can tell you that the entire province, and actually this stems to even Ontario, BC, Saskatchewan, everyone is watching the town of Edson and how well we did with this. Our region as well. So I'm of course speaking on behalf of the town of Edson, but it's incredible. And that goes to council, that goes as well to our organization. So, and our residents for adhering to the orders and believing us when we tell you, you need to leave our community. So anyway, that's just one item I wanted to make sure that we make sure that we're going to celebrate this. We need to celebrate this. One of the first steps was just coming together very informally and just having that opportunity last week, I believe, was it Wednesday? I don't even know what day it is, to come together very simply, and just seeing everyone have, you have to be a little bit light about it because it's pretty heavy for everyone. We don't know what it's like to evacuate. We don't know because we didn't get to leave any time. And so that's something for our community to understand. We have to understand what they went through. So very, very heartfelt thank you to our residents and our business owners and yourselves for leaving and allowing us to do the work we needed to do. It was incredible. So now into a little bit, some of the questions today were about operations and informally, of course, we have been sharing information with council, but I think it's really important to take the opportunity today to speak about a little bit of what we're looking ahead. We're collecting data right now. That's the critical piece, and a lot of work went into getting this preparation, and I appreciate council's grace in allowing us an extra week to work through this. We wouldn't have been ready to be able to provide this information to you. As you can tell, there's a lot of questions still unanswered, but I can commit to that we are, having this experience is not something that anyone, I'll put this out there. I believe this is, the first time this has happened in such a short period of time, 1, 2, and 3. And so it's going to take us a little bit of time to get there. So as far as answers on fire, on answers on flood. But what I'd like to, I think, talk about a little bit is that with the flood, for example, we are gathering the data, but we don't have any data from previous flooding situations. And the critical piece here is it was a matter of as soon as the floodwaters weren't even receding yet, and Clayton and his team were already working with the engineers, already making sure that we were assessing things right away so we could understand it. So as we always, when we bring items forward to council, we're bringing you data so you can trust, council makes all of the decisions when it comes to our recommendations, but that, I hope that you can be confident in that we're bringing you the data so you can make the best decisions possible with what you have. But it's going to take us some time. So we would love to be able to say, by July 17th, we're going to have everything forward. We may not. So that's a piece. When it comes to the recovery, so how with the fire, with the fire situations, The town of Edson was not affected by the fire in the way that, there was no damage. But there is funding for how we protected the town, so that's a good thing. We're still waiting for the announcement of the programs that the province will provide us as far as funding. But we are in, the question was asked, have we been speaking? We have been speaking to everyone possible. I had the opportunity to sit down with the Assistant Deputy Minister of Municipal Affairs, Gary Sandberg, this week, and share where we were at, what were the pinch points, what were the things that got in our way, the barriers that prevented us to being as successful as we could be. And so we've started that conversation, and I would, I know that we will continue as elected officials that same messaging. It's not about demanding what we need. It's about asking and just helping them understand the challenges that we face, because this is something pretty incredible that occurred in a very short period of time. And we are very lucky that the fire did not breach and damage our community at the time that it did. So there's the opportunity for us to evaluate, essentially what it is. We have to estimate that's right now what we're doing. We have to submit an application as soon as it's available, with the highest estimate possible. And that's hard. We don't, joining the United Command Center, it was a very successful model that, I believe in what we did. I think I mentioned this last time. I would do exactly the same both times. However, it's complicated because we didn't have anything in place as far as how we were invoicing. It just wasn't possible at the time. So we're working through that. But when it comes to our plans for our capital plans for the municipality, we're reassessing, we're reviewing where we were at. Obviously, you'll note in Mr. Kitlitz's presentation that the focus, we were already working on the design and construction. That's going to be very helpful. However, the positive part, because I'm really trying hard to see the positive part here, it's why this happened for us, is the fact that we will have more support from the province to help our community be more resilient in the future. So I think that there's a great opportunity here, and I think that there was an announcement as well with regards to federal funding for climate resiliency. We're looking into all of that and making sure that we are accessing every funding source available, and we may be a little more creative when it comes to our capital plans, when it comes to our infrastructure. We may recommend, and I'll throw this out here, but we may recommend that we borrow a little to be able to do if we're not able to get there with our own funding as well as the grants. Because we know this is serious and we don't want to see this happen to our residents. 76 homes, 77 is a lot of homes to be affected by this. And it's heartbreaking. It's, for me, when I think about what they've had to go through and living in the state in the summer where you're supposed to be enjoying and you're scared every time. I did have the opportunity to speak to someone this week from High River. It's been, I think, 10 years. And her staff, this is an interesting piece, and this is something I've got to work through, is that her staff will not take vacation in May and June, ever, because they're horrified of a flood occurring. It's something that they get really, the anxiety comes back every single year. So when communities have went through, and this is the same that rings true in Calgary as well, the situations can happen, but our the staff as well as the community is going to be nervous. And by rights, we know that this fire situation, for example, is also very real for us in the future, as well as now, the flooding. We've had flooding, last year. So not to the same degree, but is this the new normal? I don't know. Are we going to, I'm not suggesting that we completely, throw away all of our other plans and just focus on this, but the reality is we have to be really serious about this for our community. And I believe for our residents and the businesses, that we do come with a very solid plan, and that council can support through that. So I think what I kind of wanted to end off with is that not only, so each individual emergency, and I've compartmentalized them, number 1, 2, and 3. We've learned something. We've changed our path, which has made us better every time. So by the third time, our stakeholders are more informed. There for sure there was mistakes. There's always going to be mistakes. But with our residents and industry, we've gotten better every single time. And that's what we strive for. That's, that continuous improvement. That's a belief that, that's a philosophy that I have. And we will continue to do that for this community. And ensure that, our team as well, getting them the proper training. That's a key here. We haven't, that's not been something that's been on the side of the desk, and it's pretty critical. Now that we've had these situations, we have the opportunity now. They have real life experience where they can be not only, as skilled as what they already currently are, because it's a natural asset, but also have the foundation of the training, and to also help other communities as well. And so, I was mentioning just earlier before I came in that, I was away, with my colleagues in basically the province of Alberta, the municipalities that attended, and they want to hear how we did, why we did, and how to better prepare themselves. So, I'm certain that Edson will be asked to speak on this matter to help others. So that concludes all I wanted to say about with regards to our recovery and the resilience that I think the town of Edson, we are stronger than ever, and we appreciate that our residents have allowed us to be, and the support undoubtedly is amazing, and I think very appreciated.
Thank you, CEO Beveridge. Council, do you have any further questions or comments? Just further to the point about conversations with the province, Minister McIver has reached out several times throughout the emergency. We've had several conversations, so he is aware. And I think, our conversation has been that we will debrief following the emergency and have the discussions, MLA Long as well, because there is opportunities here to partner together, because these disasters are not only expensive for us, but it's also expensive for the province. So we need to do everything that we can to mitigate that, and I'm certain, I have a high level of confidence that the province will be supportive of assisting us and our neighbors as well as we look at recovery. A question just to council, having to do this 3 times now, and something we haven't experienced before. I think one of the things that I've been always challenged with as we go through this, and I think CEO Beveridge would say so herself, is trying to keep council in the loop. Sometimes it's really difficult with what's going on and the busy days and challenges. Do you, as a council, feel like you were informed throughout these emergencies, or is there any areas that you would have liked to see more improvement? Obviously, we tried to have the EMAC meeting for the second emergency, which worked, but for emergencies 1 and 3, we just didn't have those opportunities. So just hoping that if there's any concerns regarding that. Go ahead, Councillor Pisichny.
The only comment I would make on it, I'm in a different position than most, but Facebook isn't the be all the end all. I don't go on Facebook. I'm not going to Facebook to go watch a video. It would have been really nice on the reentry plans to have something on our webpage. Our webpage is horrible, by the way. I don't know if we have plans to revamp it, but our website is terrible, and it should be super simple, and everything linked to Facebook. And I hate Facebook, and I won't go on Facebook. And I know there's a lot of people in the community who don't have Facebook and they can't link Facebook. So I think the priority shouldn't be Facebook. I think it should be like a different path of some sort. And I just think that because people had asked me questions, and I don't know what and I'm not going to go watch a video on Facebook to find out, because that just takes too much time when I can scan data on a web page. So it would have been really nice to have timelines laid out, information laid out on our actual web page, so people who aren't on Facebook would be able to source that kind of information. So that's the only complaint I have. I was in the know because I was still in the community in a different role. But I think throughout it being in the loop that people were kept informed of what was going on. I just think we need to not always emphasize on Facebook, and that's my rant because I absolutely hate Facebook. And yeah,
Tell us how you really feel.
I hate it. I can't stand it.
Yeah, I hate Facebook too, but I do. It's a cesspool of negativity for the most part. But we did have, I think it was also streaming on YouTube, but I think there's certainly areas that we can look at improving. Councillor Bevan.
Through the chair. Basically the same thing Councilor Precision was saying, and that when the people are asking me where they could go, I would say, go to our website, go to our news feed and everything else, and it wasn't always updated and stuff like that. But also I feel that I think CO Bevers had mentioned one time she felt that she wasn't getting enough stuff out to us in time and that. But I don't have a concern of that because I know you and Clayton, Bob, and everybody else are very busy, and I feel we got the information to us. But I think if we want to know something, we can text the mayor, you guys, or whatever, and that, and you'll get back to us whenever you can in that day. So I mean that to me wasn't a problem at all. But I just like to comment that I know you hold yourself to a higher standard, and also with Bob and Clayton here, they do the same thing, higher standard, and the rest of the team and that. And I think it's great. I think if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be where we are now. We could be in a lot of mess here and that. So I just like to say thank you and that. And I don't have a problem. Like Councilor Pishy said, I like to go there. You look at Facebook Warriors, and these guys are dumb. That's just bottom line. So that's my opinion.
All right, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor. I think I said this in the first emergency, is that, when we elected, we go through the modules of what to do in these types of situations, little cartoons we had to watch in terms of preparation for this. And throughout the whole thing is about what our role is, and that is very little. And that's the way it has to be, because the worst people you want making decisions in an emergency are politicians. And that's why we pass it on to the rest of you, right? So the information that we received, I thought was very adequate. The only time I would suggest, in terms of whether it's a big decision or a big sort of turning point, is a heads up. And I think for the most part, there were heads up given, whether it was through the mayor or yourself, just a quick little message that an announcement is coming or something like that, and that sort of thing. I also thought that, I had went to the reception center the one day, and, the movement that when we just, we discussed the things that were going on there and that sort of thing, and some of the issues, and there were some, right? And the quick reaction that we got, that, and this is not to knock the city of Edmonton or the Red Cross, but it needed the Edson touch, and because our staff, like some of the principal people in our staff, I looked in that room, and when it was at the Expo Center, our staff probably knew 98% of the people that was in there, and that's what was needed. They needed that familiar face, and so when we spoke, and then it was quick action. From what I heard in the aftermath of that, it was very smooth sailing things. I know residents were having concerns with the Red Cross. Our staff were phenomenal in terms of working with them, and it was very nice to see. So, but to answer your initial question, yeah, I understand that certainly if I don't hear from you, there's no change. I'm willing to watch the videos wherever they're presented or the updates. I may, as a drama teacher, have notes in terms of presentation, but that's just to you guys. That's not negative, but we'll get into that later. But for the most part, the communication was excellent. So thank you. Yeah, I do.
I'm out if that happens. That's not happening. Councillor Chenard.
Your first question was, yes, I think I had enough information brought to me. Your second run, as we went 1, 2, and 3, because I wore different hats through this, I do compliment you. 1, 2, and 3, We don't want to see 4, but it did get better, and I do agree that you know what you've learned, we also learned from the other hand. So it is getting better. I don't want to see 4, but thank you for the great job.
Counselor Byer.
Thanks. Through the chair to CO Beveridge. So I have to concur with a few of the comments that were already brought up that, you know, when council declared the SOL, we, you know, that's our opportunity to step away from being a decision maker and give that to the experts, which are you guys, even though, you know, you haven't had many experts on these types of emergencies. Definitely different than a tabletop. But that's where your role is, and our role was to not be the decision maker and to decide all those little details that happened throughout all of the emergencies. So just, you know, firstly that, and then secondly, I have to agree with some of the comments about the Facebook. I regularly try not to be on Facebook all the time, but I do understand that that is a very fast medium, and many people are on the social media there. I just personally find it, you know, mentally exhausting to be on there, and I'll admit, I felt that I had information overload, to be quite honest, because you start scrolling, you see the town thing, and then you see your friend Joe and your friend Bob and Jane, and all of a sudden you're like, you know, and like it was too much for me, right? So it was like, okay, like step back. There's way too much information happening here. Okay, you know, the town didn't burn down, like, you know, just right, calm down. And I find just Facebook's really hard for me personally to be calm when I see all that. So especially when there was so much information available. I guess, yeah. So and then kind of leading on, when we had the re-entry, I remember there was a document I read, and I think it was like 12 or 13 or 14 pages. I don't remember. It seemed like it was a lot. And I was just wondering what the Coles notes were. So I'd have to go through and see what that was. But and also another thing was the ATCO. I think you had to call ATCO a number, but you know, I happened to had given like a website, like a link where I could just like fill out my name and my address and my phone number and get hooked up. So I heard lots of people had to call, and that's maybe my comment is that people like to do things online a little bit more than phoning, but I realized that there was probably a lot going on during all those moments. But you know, if we're gonna make notes about, you know, how another community, because this isn't happening again to us, how they could be able to look at that. So that's all. But otherwise, I think there was more than enough information on a council level. We weren't the decision makers. So
Go ahead, CO Beveridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I do want to address the Facebook comments. And one of the things, we weren't just on Facebook. We also, when we, so emergency number 2, so that's what we're speaking of, because of 1 is already, we've already debriefed-ish on that. Number 2, we brought in a communication specialist at that time. And one of his comments was, you have to diversify yourself off of just Facebook, because you need to make sure that everybody who you can speak to gets the same information. Why aren't you putting out on everything? So Twitter, you know, and even though we don't have a solid following, if you looked at our actual, like where we're at with Twitter on this, it was incredible, right? And not only for our community, but I agree there is some work to do there, absolutely. But you know, one of the things is how do we get our information as quickly as possible in a more consistent way? Because we were following from the first time, right? That number that we had everyone calling, that was really important to us, that we didn't change anything from that, because it was still so current in everyone's mind. They knew to call the 1833 number. They knew to expect that we were going to. So it is interesting, but I don't, you know, necessarily know what our next, you know, we've got to understand and learn, okay, what is other options that we can do? One of the things that was very interesting, that the siren came up. So the siren came up, we said, okay, we practice every year. One time a year, every community does it. I have never had it actually happen, because I've not been in a community that has had emergency after emergency. So we didn't do it the first time, but we did it the second time. But I wonder about how many people actually, was it effective at 11 o'clock? Like, we kind of said, we have it, let's use it. Oh, we're gonna, okay. So there's that. So I agree. There's definitely something we need to, and to be fair, so things are happening is incredible. Like minutes, no, hours feel like minutes. It's an incredible adrenaline rush for a extended period of time. And one of the things is that, so I don't look at, I'm not looking at anything at that point because I don't have time to. So I was, I guess, assuming that our website actually had that information on there. So great to know, because to be fair, I haven't had time to unpack that. The second piece, you had the next question about, sorry, I wanted to answer it. Oh, I do want to speak, a little bit about the re-entry package. So after emergency number 1, that re-entry package that was created from Yellowhead County as well as the town of Edson, we actually had communities come to us and say, what an amazing, like, it was, so I'm defending it a little bit because all the information was there, and there's a lot of information people need to know, and because they're not on Facebook or whichever, we had it available where they could just take it and go, okay, what do I need to know? And so we had communities actually say, can we borrow that from you? So, it's not perfect for sure, but again, I think that having it in a package, you're right. I think that there's with ATCO, that's again, their processes are not our processes. That's one of the things too. We were working with stakeholders, the best of their ability, and they had just done this in Drayton Valley, stood up the town, and they said they learned things there. So every industry that supported us through this are also learning at the same time. Going to the reception center, so I visited there on Friday I don't know what the date was, and it was interesting going through there because they recognized that they didn't, when Councillor Taylor, for example, was there, they said they were just starting to ramp up, and some of their volunteers were just not there yet, is in a sense where, so once I was there, right, so I was there right before a bus was leaving to come back to Edson. Everyone was sitting waiting, and so I had an opportunity to see how many people were going on the bus and see every aspect of it, essentially the animal control, which is amazing. Like amazing. You could drop your pet off and you could go to the TELUS World of Science and actually enjoy yourself. But my point is that it takes them a bit of time. And I learned this from talking to the individuals at the celebration on last Wednesday. I spent a lot of time with Red Cross, the individuals here that came to hand out the kits, and they said, we have learned so much. Like, we had a disaster happen, at other emergencies. So we have gotten so much better every single time. So I think that's the thing, is that it's never going to be perfect, nor do we want to get to be experts in the emergency business because it's exhausting. So I think if we learn, right, and we know who to call, what to do, like that's really where the key is. So anyway, I digress.
Yeah, through the chair, you'd mentioned about the Red Cross being up at the leisure center there. And when I was standing around talking to them for about 2.5 hours and that, they were totally impressed by our employees for our town. When they came into the evacuation center, they had paper that was piling up on them. Our people stepped in, got on the computers, started putting data entry in, and they were faster than anybody there at the reception center. They just could not believe how our people stepped up and didn't even really have to ask. They volunteered to help out. And they said by the time they were done, they said the stack was way down to just about nothing and that. And they were happy, joyful, and they would definitely do it again. So that goes out to big thank you to all our staff, all our employees for the town that stepped up and helped and you guys and that. So just thank you to all those people for doing that. I mean, it was a chaos there one time I was there too and that, but our employees, they stepped up and made sure everything ran smoothly.
Thank you, Councillor Position.
I was just going to talk about the air raid siren. Yes. It's really old. It's not that loud. It's loud at the fire hall. And to operate it takes an electrician who's not afraid of electricity. So if you're going to rely on it, you might want to invest a little bit of money into it, because I wasn't about to put my finger between live wires to hit the relay that doesn't work to make that thing go off. So,
Councillor Position, I think if we need to put a little bit of money into it.
If we're gonna rely on it, then we should actually maybe look at one that's, I think it's from the 40s, I think. So it's designed, it was an air raid siren from the war, so it's got to be 60 years old, and it was moved over from the fire hall, and everything's really old on it, and it's not as loud as I thought it was, because I was, we get to set the alarm off. But if we're going to implement that into our plan, we should probably invest a little bit of money into one that could reach the whole community, because it is loud at the fire hall, I'll give it that, but I don't know how loud it is away from it. But the switch should be fixed, just saying it. It's a little bit dangerous right now.
We don't want any fires started because of it. Counselor Taylor.
Yeah, just two quick notes. Through the mayor, I also defend the package that you mentioned, albeit you want it to be comprehensive. You want it to be thorough. And there's headings in there. Some of the information doesn't pertain to everybody. And you flip to the information that does, and just things to be aware of. It's good to be thorough. Because the last thing you want as a resident, however they walk into their home or re-enter the community, to say they didn't know when you have that thorough package. So, and the challenge obviously with the communication, I use Facebook, we use the message to get out there because it's instant. We use it all the time because it's instant. The challenge is what other medium is instant, whether you can send direct text messages, right? And that's the challenge. We rely so much on social media now because it's instant. We don't have access to television. Radio is at a stage of being useless, especially when everybody is scattered everywhere, right? So it is a challenge, something to think about. But our challenge with that is no different than any other municipality of how you get your message out there. Even newspapers now, you could put even for just current, communications, you could put a message in there if you want it, 2 weeks from now, right? But if you want it instant, there's only one solution. So that's just my comments on that.
All right, I think we debriefed enough. I think once again, everybody involved. Hopefully we never have to do it again. When the zombies or aliens come, I'm out. I'm just saying. So with that, if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion for adjournment. Councillor Chenard, all those in favor? Motion carried.